She was just 8 years old. Simple shopping trip for a new dress turned into a parent's worst nightmare. What happened to Cherish Perrywinkle on that humid Florida night would shake the nation, and what police found next will haunt you forever. In this video, we uncover every chilling moment, from the predator's manipulation to the frantic 911 call, to the horrifying truth that police uncovered behind a locked church fence. This is not just a story of a crime. It's a story of how evil can wear a smile. June 21st, 2013, Jacksonville, Florida. A typical Friday. Summer had just begun. For many families, it was a day of errands, laughter, and plans for the weekend. But for 8-year-old Cherish Lily Perrywinkle, it would be the last normal day of her life. Cherish was a vibrant, curious child. She loved playing with her sisters, dancing around the house, and dressing up like a princess. To her mother, Rain Perrywinkle, Cherish was her world. According to one of the Rain interviews,
she loved pink. She loved to sing. She was soft-spoken but playful, and always wanted to help with her little sisters. She made me proud.
Rain Perrywinkle was a single mother of 3 daughters. Life wasn't easy. Finances were tight. Her partner had recently left, and she had no car, no stable support. But Rain tried every day to give her girls what little happiness she could. According to Rain interview,
I was doing my best. We didn't have much, but I told them, you can still feel beautiful. You don't need money to smile.
That Friday, Cherish had a simple request. She wanted a new dress to wear to church on Sunday. Just a little something to make her feel special, Rain told media.
She kept asking, can I get a new dress for church, Mom? She just wanted to feel pretty.
Without much money, Rain took the girls to Dollar General. She thought she might find something secondhand or on sale. They browsed the aisles quietly, looking for anything that Cherish could wear. It was here where fate intervened. A man walks in. Donald James Smith, to Rain. He appeared harmless, a soft-spoken, older man. But behind his calm demeanor was a long, disturbing history. Smith was a registered sex offender with multiple prior convictions, crimes against children, in and out of prison for over 3 decades. At the time he walked into Dollar General that day, he had only been out of jail for 3 weeks. He was a predator, manipulator. And the most terrifying thing is he looked just like a friendly old man, but none of that was visible on the outside. He smiled. He offered friendly chatter. He spoke gently to Rain and her daughters and offered something she couldn't afford that day, a gift, according to Rain.
He said his wife was coming to pick him up, and they had extra money. He said, let me buy the girls something. They deserve it. He said we could meet him at Walmart, that he had a $150 gift card.
Rain hesitated. She was exhausted, vulnerable, and wanted to believe in kindness. So she agreed. Smith offered them a ride. Rain, Cherish, and her 2 younger daughters climbed into his white Dodge van. It was already late, around 8 p.m., but Walmart was open, and Rain hoped they'd be home before bedtime. What she didn't know was that she'd just placed her daughter in the hands of a predator. In that moment, everything still felt normal. A stranger offering a hand, a child excited for a dress, but in the shadows the clock had started ticking. In just a few hours, Cherish would vanish. This was the last time she would ever be seen alive. Let's dive deep into more details. Donald James Smith. His name would later make headlines across America, but on the evening of June 21st, 2013, he was just another man walking into a Dollar General store in Jacksonville, Florida. Harmless, unassuming, and seemingly kind. Smith wasn't a stranger to the justice system. He was a convicted sex offender with a lengthy criminal record. Just weeks earlier, he had walked out of the Duval County Jail after serving time for impersonating a Department of Children and Families officer in an attempt to lure a child. In the store, Rain Perrywinkle stood with her daughters Cherish, aged 8, and her 2 younger siblings, were quiet, tired, and focused on picking out a few small essentials. To Smith, it was the perfect opportunity. She saw him looking at them, but she didn't think much of it. He came over and started talking. He asked if they were okay, if they needed anything. Said his wife was across the street at McDonald's, that she had a Walmart gift card and they weren't going to use it all. He offered to share it with Rain to help her get her daughters something nice. He said he didn't want the card to go to waste, that his wife would be happy to help. It sounded too good to be true. But he looked like a grandpa. He had white hair, he was soft-spoken. What Rain didn't know was that there was no wife, no gift card, and no dinner at McDonald's. Smith offered them a ride to Walmart. Rain, out of options and trusting the man's tone and demeanor, agreed. She buckled her 3 daughters into the vehicle and sat beside them, completely unaware that her decision would trigger one of the most disturbing crimes in Florida's history. The ride to Walmart was uneventful. Cherish was smiling, excited. Rain was thankful this stranger was giving her daughter a moment of happiness she couldn't afford. It seemed like a rare act of kindness. Walmart, Jacksonville's Lem Turner Road location. Open 24 hours, bright, bustling, and massive. The perfect place for a predator to hide in plain sight. They began looking at clothes. Cherish picked out a white dress with blue trim. She was overjoyed. Smith walked with her, offering opinions, posing as a grandfather figure. As Rain focused on her 2 youngest girls, Smith began separating Cherish from the group, leading her to the shoe section. Wandering toward the back aisles, he lingered. He watched. He waited. According to security officer, he was constantly moving, not really buying anything, kept glancing toward the exits, and then he vanished. With Cherish, minutes passed, then 10, then 15. Rain began to feel a sinking panic. Smith hadn't returned. Cherish was nowhere to be found. 8-year-old Cherish Perrywinkle didn't resist. She wasn't crying. She wasn't running. She believed she was simply walking with a kind man who had just promised her a new dress. But behind the soft smile of Donald James Smith hid something vile. A predator. A planner. And a man seconds away from committing one of the most disturbing crimes in Florida history. Rain Perrywinkle believed Cherish and Smith were still nearby in the electronics section. She assumed they were picking out socks or checking the toy aisle. But as the minutes ticked by, she began to notice something wasn't right. Rain thought, they've been gone too long. She pushed the cart around. She walked through the aisles. She didn't want to look paranoid, but something felt off. Her chest got tight. She circled the store. Electronics, toys, home goods. No sign of Cherish, no sign of Smith. She asked a Walmart employee if they'd seen a little girl in a white dress. They hadn't. Rain started yelling her name, Cherish. Cherish, she thought. Maybe she got distracted, but deep down, she knew. 911 call was made.
My daughter has been taken. A man offered to help us at Dollar General. He said he'd buy her clothes. He took her. He's gone.
Dispatcher.
Ma'am, calm down. Where are you?
I'm at Walmart, Lem Turner. He's gone, please. Please find her.
The time between Smith walking out of the store and Rain realizing her daughter was missing? Nearly 40 minutes. And that would be all the time a predator like Donald Smith needed. Within minutes of the call, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office responded. The officers questioned Rain, pulled security footage, scanned for any sign of the van. The word went out. Amber Alert issued 11:30 p.m. Child, Cherish Lily Perrywinkle, age 8, suspect, white male. Deprox 60s driving white Dodge van. According to local officer, once they saw the video, they knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding, this was an abduction. Officers began canvassing the area. Highways, parking lots, gas stations. But the van was gone. Donald James Smith was no mystery to law enforcement. In fact, he was one of the most well-documented sex offenders in the state of Florida. A predator, a manipulator, a repeat offender hiding in plain sight. His criminal history stretched back decades. Indecent exposure, attempted kidnapping, lewd and lascivious acts involving children. Over and over he was caught, charged, sentenced, then released. Smith had over 20 reported violations across his adult life. He had been designated a high-risk offender, someone deemed very likely to reoffend, and yet he was out. He was released from jail just 3 weeks before the murder of Cherish Perrywinkle. Smith wasn't just free, he was on probation, legally barred from contact with minors, required to check in regularly with probation officers, supposed to wear a GPS monitor. And yet none of it stopped him. There were red flags everywhere. He had impersonated a child protective services agent. He had internet search history involving children. Why he wasn't being monitored more closely remains a devastating mystery. Donald Smith should have never been within 100 feet of a child, but no alert was issued, no surveillance in place. On June 21st, he had free rein. Once he left the Walmart parking lot with Cherish, the clock stopped. Security footage confirmed the time, 10:32 p.m. It was the last known image of her alive. For hours, police fanned across the city. But Donald Smith had taken a different route. A predator's route, quiet, remote, and away from cameras. Cherish was in the van. No one knows if she cried, if she screamed. But what's clear is that Donald Smith had no intention of bringing her back. He had planned this. His search history showed disturbing content: child bondage, rape, abduction. He had studied, rehearsed. Cherish wasn't a mistake, she was a target. June 22nd, 2013, as the sun rose over Jacksonville, Florida, a city stirred to life, completely unaware of the horror that had unfolded hours earlier. Officers had been working through the night. Patrol cars searched highways. Helicopters scanned wooded areas. The Amber Alert echoed through phones across the state, but time was slipping away. At approximately 9:04 a.m., a Jacksonville sheriff's deputy spotted a white van behind Highlands Baptist Church, parked awkwardly, hidden behind fencing. No one inside. They approached cautiously, and what they found would shatter them. According to first responding officer,
I've seen death, I've worked homicides, but this is the case I still see when I close my eyes.
behind the church, near a drainage ditch and a dumpster, lay the lifeless body of 8-year-old Cherish Perrywinkle. She had been sexually assaulted. Her dress was torn. Her small frame bruised, bloodied, and cold. The cause of death: mechanical asphyxiation, strangulation by hand. There were bruises on her neck, defensive wounds on her hands. She fought, as much as an 8-year-old could. Detectives stood in stunned silence. Child discarded like garbage, her body laid behind a house of worship. The symbolism was unbearable. So was the reality. From the moment Cherish's body was found, the focus turned to evidence, gathering everything that could ensure her killer would never walk free again. According to lead forensic investigator,
We found bodily fluids consistent with sexual assault. We found her blood, and we found Donald Smith's DNA everywhere.
there was no ambiguity. The science was clear. Cherish had been abducted, violated, and murdered by Donald James Smith. News of the discovery spread like wildfire. Jacksonville grieved. Florida was outraged. The country shocked. For Rain Perrywinkle, the wait was over. But the nightmare had just begun. Detectives vowed to bring the full weight of the law down on Donald Smith. They were not going to let bureaucracy, leniency, or legal loopholes get in the way. Every officer, every forensic expert, every legal mind working the case had one mission: to put this monster behind bars for good. She was more than a case file, more than a headline. Cherish Lily Perrywinkle was a child, a daughter, a sister, a little girl who just wanted a new dress for church. Though Cherish's life ended in tragedy, her story sparked national outrage and urgent reform. She's remembered in prayers, in classrooms, in legislation, and in every mother who now thinks twice before trusting a stranger. The wheels of justice turned quickly for Donald James Smith. By the time jury selection began in February of 2018, the case had already become one of the most high-profile child murder trials in Florida's history. Media outlets from across the country covered it. Local residents stood in line to witness the proceedings, and above it all, one name echoed in the courtroom: Cherish. Opening statements set the tone. The prosecution wasted no time laying out what would be one of the most disturbing cases the court had ever heard. He targeted her, he stalked her, he manipulated her mother. And then he took Cherish, knowing what he planned to do from the very beginning. Donald Smith showed little emotion. He rarely looked up. He entered a plea of not guilty, but the evidence that followed would leave no room for doubt. The prosecution built a rock-solid timeline. From the Dollar General encounter to the Walmart abduction, to the brutal crime itself. They used surveillance footage, digital tracking, and most damning of all, DNA evidence. According to crime lab expert trial testimony, they found Smith's DNA on Cherish's clothing, under her nails, and inside his van. The probability of the DNA belonging to someone else? Less than 1 in 1 quadrillion? Blood spatter analysis confirmed violent trauma. Cherish's dress and shoes were stained with biological fluids. Every detail corroborated the timeline of horror. Then came the most chilling evidence: Donald Smith's digital footprint. What he searched, what he watched, what he fantasized about, according to cyber forensics expert. His computer was filled with searches for child abduction, bondage, torture, and violent rape. He viewed child pornography just hours before he approached Rain Perrywinkle. He didn't just stumble into violence. He engineered it, prosecutor.
This man spent years preparing for this day, and once he found Cherish, he executed every detail he had practiced down to how to dispose of her body.
911 call was played for the jury. The courtroom was silent. Rain's desperate voice filled the chamber. Jurors shifted in their seats. Some cried openly. Even seasoned reporters turned off their cameras, unable to listen. After 3 days of harrowing testimony, it took the jury just 14 minutes to reach a verdict. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty on all counts. There was no outburst, no emotion from Donald Smith. But across the courtroom, Rain wept quietly. She finally heard what she had waited years to hear: justice. During the penalty phase, prosecutors called for the maximum sentence. The defense asked for mercy, citing Smith's mental health history. But no one in the room believed mercy was deserved. Judge's sentencing.
Donald Smith, for the murder of Cherish Lily Perrywinkle, you are hereby sentenced to death.
On March 28, 2018, Donald Smith was sent to Florida's death row. His execution date remains pending. Justice came in the form of a verdict. But true justice for Cherish would have been a life she never got to live. A birthday party, school dance, a walk down the aisle, all stolen by one man. Donald James Smith remains on death row in Florida State Prison. Cherish Lily Perrywinkle is remembered as a joyful, vibrant child full of dreams. In the days following Cherish Perrywinkle's tragic death, a community came together in grief, in shock, and in solidarity. They gathered in front of the very store where she was taken. Strangers wept for a child they had never met. Teachers lit candles. Mothers clutched their own daughters a little tighter. For Rain Perrywinkle, grief became a catalyst. She refused to let her daughter's name fade into a statistic. She became a voice for victims, for families, and for justice. Rain fought for tougher sentencing laws for sexual predators. She pushed for stricter monitoring of released sex offenders. And she spoke over and over of a broken system that let a monster walk free. In the aftermath of Cherish's murder, lawmakers in Florida introduced a bill informally referred to as Cherish's Law. The law aimed to expand the death penalty for repeat sexual offenders who murdered children. It also strengthened the requirement for GPS tracking on higher-risk sex offenders, according to Florida State Senator.
This isn't about vengeance, it's about prevention, about honoring a child whose life was stolen and protecting others from the same fate.
The law passed with overwhelming bipartisan support. Cherish's name was now not only a symbol of loss, but of action. Cherish's story wasn't just a Florida tragedy. It reverberated across the country. Parents began to question who they trusted. Background checks surged. States across America reviewed their sex offender management systems. She became a catalyst, not only for legal reform, but for awareness. Cherish's life and her death sparked a cultural shift. Cherish Lily Perrywinkle was more than a victim. She was a little girl with big dreams. She loved dancing, dressing up, drawing butterflies. She was silly, sweet, and stubborn in all the best ways. Today, her memory lives on in classrooms, in legislative halls, and in the hearts of everyone who remembers her smile. Cherish's story is a reminder of the dangers that hide in plain sight, of the importance of listening to our instincts, the courage it takes to demand change, and of the enduring power of a mother's love. Thank you for watching the Crime Decoder. If you were moved by Cherish's story, consider supporting organizations working to protect children and prevent future tragedies. Subscribe for more true crime stories that deserve to be told with empathy, with depth, and with truth.